Well, Mr. President, this is a big day for those of us who believe strongly that we need to focus here on job creation, a better business climate, a bill that will, in fact, not only protect jobs, but create new jobs. And that is the bill that we're hoping will get the go-ahead at 2 o'clock, what we call MAP-21, Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century, S-1813. This has been, if I could use an analogy that fits, a long road to get to this point so that we can, in fact, make sure that we have an adequate road system, an adequate highway system, an adequate transit system, and that we make sure as a world leader that our infrastructure, our bridges, our roads, keep up with the demands put upon them. And there are many demands put upon them because we are a great nation with commerce and heavy-duty vehicles on our roadways, railroads that cross over roadways that create potential problems, and certainly a robust transit system that needs to keep up with the times. Just last night, I received a letter from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I was very pleased to see it because they support the bill that Senator Inhofe and I, on a bipartisan basis, were able to get through our committee on a unanimous vote. Now, it is a rare moment in history, frankly, when the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and labor unions all come together, everyone on the same page to say, let's move forward with a bill. And, in these days of controversy and debate, and Lord knows I'm immersed in many of them, this is one area we've been able to carve out a real important consensus, not only in the Environment and Public Works Committee, but in the Banking Committee, where Senators Johnson and Shelby worked together to get a piece of this bill done. In the Finance Committee, where senators there, led by Senator Baucus, were able to hammer out a tough, important agreement to fund this bill because it has some shortfalls due to the fact that the Highway Trust Fund, has been going down because cars are getting better fuel economy, and that's a good thing, but the bad unintended problem is that the trust fund now has fewer dollars, so we run short of what we need to keep up our bridges and highways and transit systems, to keep them going. So what a moment it was to see not only our committee, but the Banking Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Commerce Committee, with a couple of exceptions on a couple of provisions. They did their job as well, and we're trying to work with them to resolve whatever matters remain on that portion of the bill. But I want to quote from the letter from the Chamber of Commerce that I received just last night, and just share a couple of lines with everyone. I'm quoting, "The Chamber strongly supports this important legislation. Investment in transportation has proven to grow jobs, and the need for Congress to act on transportation infrastructure is clear." More quotes. "Passing transportation reauthorization legislation is a specific action Congress and the administration can take right now to support job growth and economic productivity without adding to the deficit." And, just those two quotes, I think, show that we've done our job well. This is a bill that is paid for. This is a bill that, because of the way it was written, is a reform bill, which I'll go into, but it also protects the jobs we currently have, which is 1.8 million jobs in the transportation area, but also because of the way we have a new we have boosted up a program called TIFIA, which I'll talk about, which is a highly leveraged program. We have the capacity to add over 1 million new jobs. Mostly these jobs are in the private sector. That's where they are. And that's what we are focused on in this legislation. I mentioned Senator Inhofe before. my ranking member on the Environment and Public Works Committee. I expect him to be here shortly. I can't tell you the trusted partnership that we were able to develop with him. That went not only for his relationship with me in working on this bill, but the staff-to-staff relationships, which have blossomed into friendships and trust. And I think what we have shown is that each of us can be a tough but fair partner. Our staffs understand where we're coming from, but we have a bigger goal in front of us than our differences, and that is our agreement that it is our responsibility to fix up our aging roads and highways and bridges, our infrastructure, to put people back to work, to boost our economy. And as Senator Inhofe has talked about very often with examples that are, in many ways heartbreaking, we have problems with safety in our nation. We have bridges that are crumbling. We have seen them with our own eyes. We cannot turn away from this because we may have disagreements on lots of other things. It has been a long but a very worthwhile journey to get to this stage. Because the payoff here, if this bill eventually becomes law, is, as I said, protecting 1.8 million jobs and creating up to another 1 million jobs. I have to thank, as I have thanked, and again, I wanted to mention Commerce Committee. I didn't thank Senators Rockefeller and Hutchison for their work on this as well. So we have 4 committees that are involved in writing this bill. Each committee has voted out their bills, and if all goes right today and we get a resounding go-ahead, I hope we can begin with amendments on the EPW portion and then move to add the different other bills to this bill until we have added all the committees together, and then I hope we'll have a resounding vote and get to a conference committee. We have major differences with the other body, but I think we can work it out for the good of the people and the 1,000 organizations that back us in this bill and this effort. I also have to thank Senator Harry Reid, the majority leader. He brought this bill to the floor. He exerted the right kind of pressure on all of our committees. He encouraged us. He understands clearly that as we try to get out of this recession, and we have seen beneficial results of our actions in a number of areas, but this is going to mean a big boost for jobs, and he understands that. I want to also say that within my committee, we have what we call the Big Four. It's the chairman and the ranking member, myself and Senator Inhofe, and then it's the chairman of the Highway Subcommittee and the ranking member there, and that's Senator Baucus and Senator Vitter. So I honestly think if you look at the Big Four and you look at our philosophies and you look at where we're from and the differences we bring to the table, we cover the whole Senate in terms of a range of ideologies, but tied together by a belief that this is something that needs to get done. And Senator Baucus and Vitter were with Senator Inhofe and I every step of the way, for which we are very grateful. I alluded to 1,000 organizations that have been involved on the outside, just pushing us to get this done. And my hat is off to them. They are a broad coalition. I have spoken frequently with them just to give them an update on how we're doing. And I have to tell you, they really, truly represent America. And over the course of this debate, if I have the time, and in many ways I hope I don't have the time, because I hope we can get this done and not spend a whole lot of time on it, because I think the committees have done such a good job. But if we have excess time on the floor, I intend to read as many of those organizations into the record as I possibly can, because that coalition is remarkable in its reach. They were led by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, unprecedented coalition. They came together regardless of ideology and differences. And every time I look at this list, I'm reminded that essentially is America. It's America. Business, labor groups, state organizations, city organizations, and organizations from all 50 states. We got a letter from these 1,000 organizations recently, and I'm going to quote what they said, some of what they said. They said there are few federal efforts that rival the potential of critical transportation infrastructure investments for sustaining and creating jobs and economic activity. They wrote, in 2011, political leaders, Republican and Democrat, House, Senate, and the administration stated a multi-year surface transportation bill is important for job creation and economic recovery. We urge you to follow words with action. And this is what they asked us, Mr. President. Make transportation job number one and move legislation immediately in the House and Senate to invest in the roads and the bridges and the transit systems that are the backbone of our economy, its businesses large and small, and communities of all size. Again, it's important to note, our surface transportation bill creates or saves millions of jobs, benefiting millions of American families across the country. And what a great signal it will send as we struggle to get out of the slowdown. And we begin to see light at the end of the tunnel. This will be a very large light because there are very few things we can do here that have the reach of a transportation bill. Let's talk about the construction industry. According to the most recent unemployment figures, there are 1.5 million construction workers out of work, with the industry facing an unemployment rate of 17.7%. Construction workers are out of work. And let's show that chart, David, if we can. The national unemployment rate is 8.3%. We want to see that come down. But look at that construction industry unemployment rate, Mr. President, 17.7%. These are real people with pride in what they do. And we know the housing industry has had a horrible time, and it is stalled out, and it's in a horrible trough. So if we can take those construction workers and offer them an opportunity to build the roads, the bridges, the highways, the transit systems, it will put them to work, and we'll get that 17.7% rate down. I don't know if we have a picture of that stadium. And how many stadiums? 15? Mr. President, this is a picture of a Super Bowl stadium. And from what I understand, it seats about how many people? 100,000. 100,000. That's what we see here. If we had 15 of these pictures, 15 Super Bowl stadiums worth of people, that's how many people are unemployed in construction. And I use this not only because I watched the Super Bowl, although my Niners didn't get in it and it was upsetting, but because it's a picture, it's a visual. Imagine every one of these people unemployed times 15. It's a visual. And I think it's important that we keep in mind that we're talking about real people who have lost real jobs because of this recession and especially the housing downturn. And this is a chance to put them to work. There is an urgent need to get this legislation through the conference committee and onto the president's desk because the current transportation authorization extension expires on March 31st. So I want to say to colleagues who may be watching or staffs that may be watching, you may have a lot of amendments in your mind and your heart, and everybody has a right, and I support your right. But please think very hard before you start bringing down amendments here that will slow us up. 1,000 organizations know that we need to keep our eye on the ball. And these organizations are in all of our states, and they represent millions and millions and millions of America's families. So let's not add extraneous matters, please. Let's not have frivolous amendments, killer amendments. We all can offer those. I've got several I could offer in a heartbeat. But this isn't the place to have our ideological disputes. This is a bill that's a jobs bill. This is a bill that is good for our business. This is a bill that will save 1.8 million jobs and create up to 1 million more at a time when we must have that kind of wind at our back. So we have another reason. Not only does the bill, authorization of the highway bill expire in March, but we also know that the trust fund is running out of money for projects already in the pipeline. So we have to find a reliable source and stable source of funding. Senator Baucus and his Finance Committee have come up with a way to responsibly fill this shortfall. And I cannot thank them enough. Democrats and Republicans on that committee, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because what you've done is come up with some very good ways to pay for the shortfall, and those ways do no harm. We must push forward for another reason. I alluded to before, America's aging infrastructure is crumbling. Let me just tell America this. 70,000 of our nation's bridges are structurally deficient. 70,000 of our nation's bridges are structurally deficient. 50% of our roads are not up to standard. Now, if you're in your home and you have little kids and someone who is an expert comes up to you, an engineer, and says, your house could easily crumble, we all know what you do. You get out of there, fix it, and then move the family back in. Well, this is no different. If somebody tells you your house is crumbling, you've got to fix it. If somebody says to you our nation's bridges are structurally deficient and over 50% of our roads are not up to standard, we have to act. My dear friend and colleague who is going to manage this bill with me has arrived. And I will tell him I'm about 5 minutes away from ending my opening statement and yielding him the floor. But he is more eloquent than anyone I've ever heard of on two issues. One, what is the role of government? And he makes the point, which I'm not going to take away from him, as to how infrastructure fits into that. And he also is eloquent on the point of safety, because he's seen with his own eyes what happens when we don't keep our infrastructure sound and safe. We have a deteriorating part of our infrastructure, and it needs to be fixed. And we can't be an economic leader if we can't move people and goods. We can't thrive as a nation if our people are trapped in traffic and our businesses are trying to move goods and they're trapped in traffic. We lose 4.8 billion hours from work, and we pay the price for that in, loss of productive time and in dirty air. So our bill that was passed out of the Environment and Public Works Committee, and I want to say to my ranking member that he wasn't here and his staff wasn't here at the time that I started, but I praised you to the sky and your staff, because regardless of our differences on many issues, we've been able to put this country first in this. And I am so grateful. And the kind of spirit of cooperation we brought to our work really was captured in the Banking Committee, where Senator Johnson and Shelby got together, and in the Finance Committee, where many Republicans joined our Democratic friends to figure out a way to fund this responsibly, and in the Commerce Committee, where we have one or two little hiccups, but I believe we're going to resolve them. I really do. And I'm proud that we were out there first showing that we could do this. And people said all over the Senate, if Boxer and Inhofe can do this, anything is possible. MAP-21 is a reform bill, and I'm proud about that. It consolidates 90 programs into less than 30. It focuses us on key national goals. It gives greater flexibility to the states to invest in their top priorities. It eliminates earmarks. It establishes performance measures to improve accountability. It accelerates project delivery, and it provides resources for a new national freight program. This bill is responsible. It continues the current level of funding plus inflation, which, as I said, protects 1.8 million jobs. And the TIFIA program, which Senator Inhofe and I agreed to increase, which stands for Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, is also embraced by Chairman Mica over on the House side. So Republicans and Democrats agree that by making more funds available through TIFIA, we can mobilize up to $30 billion more dollars from the $1 billion we've placed in that fund and create up to 1 million jobs. I want to thank the mayor of Los Angeles and the chamber there and the workers there who really brought the idea of leveraging to my attention. I want to say that Tom Donahue of the U.S. Chamber, his president there, Richard Trumka, the president of the AFL, and many businesses and laborers throughout our nation support this TIFIA program to stretch taxpayer dollars in a safe way. Again, they have done that in the House bill as well, which is very good for us. So I'm proud of this bill and the reforms. I'm proud of the working relationship that we've established across party lines in our committee. And I could say very honestly, there's a lot of things that this bill does not have that I'm really sorry about, that I really wanted to see in there. And I know, and I'm not going to detail those, but I know Senator Inhofe feels the same way. But there were certain things that were lines in the sand for each of us, and it was give and take that resulted in this compromise, which is a good bill, a good, solid bill. We put those controversial issues aside, I think, for the good of the nation. And I'll close with this. Ever since Dwight Eisenhower started us on a path to build the interstate highway system, transportation has been a bipartisan effort. I asked my staff to research some of the comments made by President Eisenhower in 1963 when he established the federal interstate highway system. Actually, he wrote his autobiography in 63. He established the system in 56. And this is what he said: "More than any single action by the government since the end of the war, this one would change the face of America. With," this is his quote, "with straightaways, cloverleaf turns, bridges, and elongated parkways." He says its impact on the American economy, the jobs it would produce in manufacturing, construction, the rural areas it opens up, that's beyond calculation. And it's very important to note that how bipartisan it is. Ronald Reagan in '82, more efficient roads mean lower transportation costs. And he says, lately, driving isn't as much fun as it used to be. Time and wear have taken their toll on America's roads and highways. Well, he said it well. And so we have Democratic presidents, Republican presidents, Democratic senators, Republican senators, all working in a bipartisan way. Votes on these bills have been overwhelming, 79-8, 372 in the House to 47. All of our presidents signing these laws. And I'd ask unanimous consent to place the rest of my statement into the record. And I say that today is a good day, a tough time to get to this date. I've tried to thank everyone that I could think of that had anything to do with it, and it's my privilege now to yield the floor and look forward to the comments of my ranking member.